This video is on factoring quadratics. I'm going to be doing examples of quadratic trinomials. I'm going to factor completely using guess and check. These are my directions. I'm going to highlight this in pink. Factor completely using guess and check. There are other ways to factor trinomials, but I am focusing on guess and check. There's other methods such as the AC method. Some people might hear it as MACAB. Some people might do slide and divide. There are multiple ways, but I'm specifically going with guess and check. So using the steps from a previous video, I'm going to be following those 3 steps. The first step is to factor the GCF. So I'm going to write out what my GCF is over to the side. The smallest number of this is a 3. 17 cannot be divided by 3. Then what multiplies to 3 is 1 and 3, and those are the only 2 numbers. So the GCF would have to be 1. Then I look for letters. I have an x, no x. So my GCF is just 1. GCF is just 1, so that will not affect the problem at all. So now I have 3 terms. 3 terms, if I remember back to the chart, 3 terms is when you would use guess and check. So this is why we're using guess and check. So the second step of guess and check is the guess. We take the factors of our ax squared. So our 3x squared is our ax squared. So I'm going to take my 3x squared. I'm going to find the factors of it. So I know 3 is 1x and 3x. Because 1 times 3 gives me 3, and x times x gives me x squared. Those are the only factors of 3x squared. Then I also have to take the factors of our c term, which is that 10. So I'm going to write out, I know it's 1 times 10, and then 2 times 5. Now I always go in order. I always start with 1, and then I make my way up. And that will actually help to keep things in a nice order. So I have all of my factors. So I'm going to guess to see which ones go into the front. So I know I'm going to have 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to write out my 2 sets of parentheses. My ax term, or the factors of my ax squared, go into the front of the parentheses. So I'm going to put my ax, so my 1x will go in the front here, and then my 3x will go into the front here. Again, I'm guessing to see which numbers will go where. Now I have a 2 and 5. I want to put my 2 and 5, I start at the bottom of the chart, and if the 2 and 5 don't work at all in the entire set, I then go up to the 1 and 10. So my 2 and 5, I want to make sure that I don't put any terms that have something in common together. So I look, my 2 and 1 have nothing in common, 2 and 3 have nothing in common. 5 and 1, 5 and 3, those have nothing in common. So it does not matter where I put my 2 and 5. But I do want to put them, I like to start with, put the 2 in the back of the first one, and then put the 5 in the back of the second one. Now I also want to make a note that because, and this goes to the helpful hints, the signs, so I did a helpful hint that I should have no common factors together. Now my other helpful hint was the signs. I actually have, for my signs, I'm going to write a little note over here, for my signs, I have a positive c value. It's a positive 10. That means that the signs are going to be the same. So I know that they're either both going to be positive in here, or they're both going to be negative. So it comes from the c term, then it comes from the bx term. So now I have a negative bx term, which means that they will both be negative. So I know I can actually go ahead and put both signs of negative in here. So this is my first guess. Now I'm going to check it. To check, you multiply the inside numbers. So negative 2 times positive 3x is a negative 6x. And then you multiply the outside numbers. 1x times negative 5 is negative 5x. These are supposed to combine somehow to become that bx term. Negative 5 and negative 6 will give us a negative 11. That does not give us negative 17. So I'm going to write a note that negative 6x minus 5x, because I already had the signs, those had to literally be the signs. So there's no other way that I could have put this. Does not combine to negative 17x. That means I want to rearrange the back terms. So if it doesn't work the first time, rearrange them, just the back terms, and then if that doesn't work, then we find a new back term. So I'm going to rearrange the back terms. So I'm going to keep everything else the same. It's just now I'm going to put my 5 here, and then I'm going to put my 2 here. So I'm going to rewrite this just over here. I'm going to have the same thing. I'm going to have my 1x and my 3x. I'm going to have my negative and negative. But now this time I'm going to have my 5 in the first spot and then my 2 in the second spot, because these still multiply to that 10. So now I can recheck. So my inside, negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. And then outside is 1x times negative 2 is negative 2x. These, negative 15x minus 2x equals to negative 17x, which is the middle term, which is what we want. That means that our answer, these were the correct guess and checks. So this was the correct guess. So my answer, our GCF was 1, so I don't have to put that, parentheses, x minus 5, parentheses, parentheses, 3x minus 2, close parentheses. You can continue to put the 1 here, but it's not needed. And you can also have put the 3x minus 2 times the x minus 5. That is guess and check. So you are literally guessing which numbers go where, and then you're checking to see if it gives you that middle term. So let's do another one. 4y squared minus 4y minus 3. First thing we look for is our GCF. Smallest number is 3. 4 cannot be divided by 3. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3, so the GCF is just going to be a 1. They don't all have a y, so GCF is just 1. Now before I actually keep going, I can actually go ahead and say stuff about my signs. So I can do that before I even begin. Look at my C term. I have a negative C term. What that tells us is that the signs are different. Signs are different. So one will be positive and one will be negative inside of our parentheses. And then I look at the BX term. I have a negative BX term. What that means is that when we multiply them like we did up here, when we multiply them, the bigger multiplication, like 15 is bigger than 2. So the bigger multiplication since it's a negative BX term, the bigger multiplication is negative. So let's write out our factors of the first term. It's 4y squared. So we start with 1y and 4y. Then we also have 2y and 2y. Then we write out the factors of 3, which are 1 and 3, and that's it. So we're going to go ahead and put in our parentheses. Now, because we know that the signs are different, I'm not going to focus on the signs until I do the multiplication. Because it's going to be too hard to know which one of these has the positive and which one has the negative. I don't want to have to rewrite it if I don't have to. So I'm going to start with the first terms, my 2y and my 2y. Since it's at the bottom of the chart, I work my way up. So 2y and 2y. 2y and 2y. Then I put the 1 and the 3 in the back. So 1 and 3 in the back. Again, I'm not going to worry about the signs yet. I'm going to go ahead and multiply. Inside numbers, 1 times 2y is 2y. And then 2y times 3 is 6y. I want to somehow get a 6y and a 2y to give us a negative 4y. Now, I want to go ahead and put the correct sign where it goes, just to see if it will work. So the bigger multiplication of this should be the negative. So the 6 is bigger than the 2, so the 6 should be the negative one, and the 2 should be a positive. So now we just figure out, do these combine correctly? is 2y minus 6y equal to negative 4y. 2 minus 6 is negative 4, so this is correct. That means that this guess was actually correct. Now we just put in our signs. Now to really understand how to put the signs in here, the front terms always have to stay positive. So it's only the 1 or the 3 that can change signs. So if I follow this along, I know that this line right here has to be my negative, the 6y. So this was a positive, follow it along, and then it goes to the 3. So that means that 3 has to be the negative part. Because the 2 is attached to the 2y and the 1, the positive is attached to the 2y and the 1, so both of these have to be positive. Now that I have the correct signs, the correct values in here, I can write out my answer. It's parentheses 2y plus 1, parentheses, parentheses, 2y minus 3, close parentheses. I also could have seen that 1 and 2 were fine, 3 and 2 were fine. That's how I knew that I could still check those. 1 and 1 can also work. You can put 1 and 1 together. That is a fine type of factor. It's not a common factors together. On this next problem, 2x squared plus 20x plus 18. Let's find our GCF. Our smallest number is 2. 20 can be divided by 2. 18 can be divided by 2. So that means we do have a GCF on it. They only 2 of them have an x, not the third, so their GCF is just 2. So let's factor out that 2. We're going to have 2 parentheses. We're going to divide everything by 2. So we're going to have x squared plus 10x plus 9. So what we're going to do is now we factor the inside the parentheses. So we're going to completely ignore the original problem. We focus only on the inside of the parentheses because this is our new trinomial. So you look at our signs. You have a positive 9, so our positive c tells us that we will have the same signs. So signs are the same. And then we look at our bx term, which is also a positive. We have a positive bx, which tells us that both are positive. So when we go to our parentheses, we know we're going to have both signs positive, so we can put those in before we even finish. So we're going to do our factors of x squared are just x and x. Factors of 9 are 1 and 9, and then 3 and 3. Put my parentheses. Now, once you do enough of these, you'll be able to see which ones will have to give you the middle term. But I'm going to show out all parts of this just so you can understand where things are coming from. I'm going to put the x and x in the front of both. Then I'm going to put the 3 and 3 in the back of both as long as they don't have anything in common. 3 is good with 1, 3 is good with 1, so is that 3. So 3 and 3. And we've already said that our signs have to be the same, and they both have to be positive, so I'm going to put plus and plus. Inside multiply is 3x. Outside multiply is positive 3x. 3x plus 3x does not give us 10x. Therefore, we need to, if we rearrange it, if you rearrange the 3 and 3, it would still be 3 and 3. That wouldn't change at all. So it's not like this first one where the multiplication actually did change. 3 and 3 are the same numbers. So instead of rearranging the 3 and 3, I'm going to go up the list on the back numbers to 1 and 9. So I'm going to try this again. Still going to keep that 1x and that 1x. Still going to keep the positive and positive. But now I'm going to put the 1 and the 9. 1 and 9. So inside, 1 times 1 is 1x. 1x times 9 is 9x. And these both are positive, so 9 plus 1 gives us the 10. So this one is good. So 1x plus 9x equals 10x, which is good. That means that this is our factors. So we're going to write out our answer cleanly. Parentheses, x plus 1, parentheses, parentheses, x plus 9, parentheses. Now again, it's very possible that you could have already have seen that without doing this, and that's where you want to get to. But if you notice, I also need to have my GCF on here because this will not give me 1 times 9 does not give me 18. It gives me 9. So my GCF of 2 also has to be on here because now when I multiply 1 times 9 gives me 9, times 2 is what gives me the 18. So you could have seen that x plus 3 and x plus 3 doesn't give you the right one. But 1 times 9 and 1 and 9 will give you a 10. So you could have seen that before you had to do all of this.